everyone goes, what?
True.
Hi, Monica Gresser, co-chair. Anna Peltier over there, co-chair for Women in Architecture. Welcome to you guys. We appreciate you showing up. We're recording this. Apparently, lots of people watch this after it gets recorded. So I'm very pleased about that. So we appreciate those of you who will be looking at this on the AIA Las Vegas YouTube channel later. I think it's an important topic about women in leadership. We'll talk about how, who we're talking to today. We'll talk about everyone's in a leadership position. Oh, I'm looking at the camera like it matters. We're in a leadership position. All these ladies are in leadership positions. Currently, it would be, and we thought it would be an interesting conversation to have regarding how you all got there, what made you who you are, and what you learned along the way that keeps it all together. And we kind of had those conversations on the phone recently, right? So welcome, thank you for joining us as our panelists. The antitrust statement is in the chat, so if you want to look at that and you are looking at this video later on, please take a look. I am not going to read that right now. I don't believe we have any, we do have committee updates. So next month, this is our official last panel discussion for the year. Next month, we're going to do an organizing meeting so that we talk about topics for next year. So it'd be really helpful if people showed up live and in person, well, whether that's on video or in person, so we can talk about those topics. Or if you want to email us topic ideas and why you think they're important, that would also be useful. And then we'll put together an agenda for next year. So that's what we're going to do next month.
November and December, we're going to take off because
it's crazy in November and December. So trying to find time for any panelists to come in and talk to us is all just going to be crazy. We're not going to do that. Okay. So now, introductions, intro, topic, begin discussion. See how I did my little outline. Okay, so the topic today is women in leadership. We'll talk with principal level architects about their current positions and how they arrived at those positions. You don't just float to the top like bubbles. And we'll discuss bumps and highlights that brought each woman to where she is and how she works to encourage and inspire future architects. It all sounds familiar now, doesn't it? You didn't think I was going to read right off my page. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, but I will say, first of all, I'll give you a general introduction, and then if you would please describe your tell us your title and what you do in your current job position. Far over here on your, your right? Waving her hand is Jennifer Johnson from the city of Henderson. In the middle is Jenny Knars from TSK. And then over here, this lovely lady is Cecilia Schaffler from Lage Design, not landscape architecture, design. Lage Design. So Jennifer, if you will start, please. And give us your official title. Hello. Oh, hello, Heather. Welcome. We have we're just starting the introduction for our panelists tonight. Jennifer, if you will tell us your official title and position, and then tell us what you do at the City of Henderson.
My official title is Design and Construction Manager, and I do whatever I'm supposed to do. Range of things, but essentially my team is responsible for all of the vertical construction of city facilities and any renovation.
And you are an architect.
And I am an architect.
Mm-hmm. We had this discussion about how it doesn't say you're an architect, but you are an architect.
That's right, and it wasn't recently required to be an architect.
Right on, there we go. Jenny?
I'm Jenny Pinard with TSK. I'm the managing principal of our Henderson office. But I still do all of the architect things too. So manage projects, some of our bigger ones, and then I also manage our staff, make sure all the projects have all the appropriate people on them, time and all that.
And what kind of projects?
Public.
Public, there we go. Cecilia?
Cecilia Schaffler with Lage Design. I'm a landscape architect, and I'm the president of the firm, but day to day I operate more as the design principal, which means I do a lot of the same stuff that these ladies just talked about, as well as get coffee and water plants, and do whatever needs to get done and make sure the lights stay on and all of that.
And somebody has to water the plant.
Properly, I might add.
Anna gave me a plant 8 years ago, and I said, I'm going to kill that plant. I don't know why you brought me a plant. And she said, it's really hardy. You cannot give it water for a week and it'll still be fine. You can overwater it, it'll still be fine. I cannot believe that damn thing is still alive. So apparently it's true.
Plants that thrive on
What's that?
neglected torture.
Yes, I neglected it.
These are the ones I recommend.
So thank you for giving me a plant that I'm having a hard time killing. Okay, so if you would please, tell us a bit about how each of you got to your current position. Hello, Michelle. Thank you for joining us. We're just starting into our questions with our panelists. Tell us a bit about how you got into that position, like what did you do before? What kinds of things did you work on? Did you also do maybe, see, I'm really interested in community stuff. So did you also do community-based stuff, things outside of architecture? I'm looking for things that may have molded you into who you are. That's what I'm looking for. Who wants to go first? Doesn't have to be in order. There is no order. It's all chaos.
Cecilia has an interesting story.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. I actually started my career at the City of Henderson way back when, and I started as an intern, and then the internship ended, and then heard that there was an opening in the planning department, now community development, and so started out as a planner, and I think realized, do I want to be a planner or do I want to be a landscape architect? And I wanted to be a landscape architect, so I made my way over to Parks and Rec, and I spent some time there, and then I was not getting, I think, a full, well-rounded experience to help me pass the licensing exam, and so I went and I started working for Jack Zunino, and spent a few years there, got licensed, and when my son Ben was born, I had the bright idea to stay home. I'm not wired that way, and so that was, my husband would come home to 5-course meals with the wine flight and the whole deal because I was busy, and but it was also a very busy time, and in the community here, and I was getting phone calls. Hey, will you help me with this? Will you work on this? Will you work on that? So I started working out of a little loft in my house. And eventually that grew. I shared office space with Ethos 3 Architecture for a while. And then I started to grow, and they got busy, and so we kind of grew out into our own space after that. And it almost has happened in a blink of an eye, but it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of ups and downs, but we're now a 14-person firm, and it's been quite the ride.
So what kind of things, though, did you do when you were younger, like an intern or with a little bit more experience? What kind of things were you working on?
Actually, my first actual experience was I worked as a cartographer. And so because I'm old, this was before CAD, we did everything by hand. And we were working on zoning maps, and as we were getting input from the public and changing zoning on the Northwest Master Plan for the City of Las Vegas, I would have to come in and cut that little section out and bring in a new one underneath. And we did it all by hand, and then had the thing photographed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, so I did stuff like that when I was at the city in planning. I worked on subdivision maps, final maps, reversionary maps. That actually, I think, was a really great experience from the perspective of developing analytical skills and critical thinking, because you're reviewing and you are responsible for catching things. So that, that was really great. So it was things like that I think were the most beneficial, the things that really I had to be accountable for, and I had to catch things, and I had to write reports. I did a lot of report writing, and I think now, in retrospect, that was also a really great experience, because I don't think people realize how much we write and how much how important that is in our day-to-day careers.
Thank you for that. Which one of the J's is next?
I'll go, we can reverse on the line this way. My first job out of college, technically was in Croatia for a couple months. It was kind of a study abroad, but work-related, and I was actually graduated from undergrad at that point. So yeah, I worked in Croatia in a small architecture firm, and they were actually doing public work as well, some elementary schools. So I worked there for 2 or 3 months, very different than here. But that was my first exposure as a graduate from college. And then I came back here. I actually did intern at TSK when I was a junior in college. And so my husband and I had a bet. We are from Michigan. Whoever got a job first, that's where the other one would follow. So I just called up Wyndham and then had a job offer, and that was very quick, and then we've been here ever since. So I have been at TSK the whole time. I did leave for 4 or 5 months in the middle there, probably at year 6 or 7, but then I went back. So tried it out for a little while, but I think I just got lucky and found the firm that I fit in first, off the bat. I enjoy doing the public work. I've kind of just risen through. Not necessarily about time, but you start at the bottom, doing all those little things, and then kind of worked my way up, and here I am.
Right, so we're not naming firms, but you left for a bit to try something else to make sure that you were in the right place. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, you have to test it out. I stayed there a long time, and I've been there a long time now. But yeah, anyone that's younger and they're leaving firms or switching firms, you have to totally understand that. They're trying to figure out where they fit in or what they want to do. Because, you spend a lot of your life at work. You want to be happy with where you are and what you're working on. So yeah, I left for a little bit. It was different. It was a much smaller firm. That was kind of my intro to kind of project management. But they were very, very small, some residential things. Talking super small, we're going to put a closet in this house to make it this 4th bedroom. And after a couple months, I just wasn't learning what I thought I needed to be learning. So yeah, they hadn't filled my position at TSK, so I just went back.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you were doing elementary schools in Croatia?
A couple months out of school. Yeah. It was interesting.
How'd you end up there, and do you speak the language? Did they speak
No,
English?
I don't. I do not speak the language.
Okay.
No. It was basically an exchange program, but for work instead of school. So it was a technical field in architecture there. So I was there with other people my age from all around the world. So there was 20 of us. They weren't all architecture though. There's only 2 people doing architecture. There was chemists and all sorts of scientific fields there, engineers. But yeah, so we all went to work at these different places. They helped place you. So the program, basically, since I went to Croatia, that means someone from Croatia could come to the U.S. So it's a huge pot of students just traveling around.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So got to spend some time there, made friends that are all over the world now, and
who did we just gain? Alexia. Hello, Alexia. Welcome. Jennifer.
My career took its own little turn that wasn't necessarily planned, but I was in private practice prior to moving to UNLV and working in public works there. In private practice, I worked for several different firms. The most recent was hospitality design, which was fun and frustrating. But for that, my first firm was for a Native American-owned firm, and they did only Native American work on the reservations, and it was I didn't stay there very long, but it was really interesting, all the different rules and There was no plans check, there probably is now, but there was no plans check or permitting at the time, and, there were buildings I was not allowed to go into because I was a woman. So it was interesting. So I only lasted about 8 months there. And then I moved to, that was in Phoenix, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and worked for a very small firm there, which got smaller and smaller over a few years, and so I decided I was the last person to leave. A really great experience there related to assisted living and housing, which was interesting. And then came here and worked for a very small firm here for about 10 years, and now I've been at the city.
Right on. And so where you are at the city is facilities.
Right, so facilities is a division of public works.
I have something specific. I don't know if I'm ready to hit that yet. Oh, yes, I am. Because my next question is, what challenges do women in leadership roles face generally? So I'm going to start with you, Jennifer.
Okay.
Because you did, the city of Henderson was set up a little bit differently when you got there, right?
Right. So prior to me being there, there was facilities management, which is responsible for all of the maintenance of our facilities, and then there was design and construction. And there wasn't a whole lot of conversation between the two, or coordination between the two. So there was actually hard feelings on both sides related to, you're giving us stuff we can't maintain, or that we don't want to maintain, and you're not providing us feedback, so how can we give you what you want? So, and it was actually initiated just prior to me getting there, but the groups got combined. So now, design and construction is part of facilities, and that communication has, the way has been paved for that communication, and it's just made the designs and the potentials of our facilities so much better. Now they're maintainable. My team understands what is maintainable, and there's some synergy that I think is possible if it wasn't structured enough.
Question, would you think if you can compare it to like a casino activity versus construction or no?
Can you say that louder into the mic?
My question was if you could compare it to casino work, you know how you have facilities and then the construction department, can you compare it?
Yes, it's almost exactly like that.
Because the guys are like, oh, we need this, and then I feel like the construction department is not on the same page, right?
Yep, it's exactly like that, where they're almost two separate entities, and not really communicating together. So it's worked out a lot better with this structure. It's kind of an unusual structure for public works.
So anything else on that? Or generally, so not necessarily with the city, but also things that women face generally in leadership roles. Is there anything you have generally for that maybe? Not necessarily at Henderson?
I think it's the typical, work-life balance, and who do you lean on to support you in that, and how men and women are sometimes taken differently even though you're saying the same thing just because of the expectations. I think it's just those typical.
Trying to find that communication line?
Yeah.
Same with you guys? So it's like trying to figure out like where that balance is in how you speak to other people or how they respond to you. Is that, would you call that like challenging, or not challenging, but maybe like, maybe that's even something that happens within your own firm and how you speak to one another, or in trying to lead people that maybe, well, I am going way off the another road here, but I'm gonna go anyway. I'm gonna do me. So it got me to thinking about like sometimes we have people in our organizations that we find challenging, and how do we work together? Like, how do we find that balance maybe sometimes? Because that's also a role of leaders, right? Especially in all of your positions, like, how are you dealing with that kind of thing? And that,
Like the different personalities?
Could be. You could go that way, I'll let you go that way. I'm open.
I don't know if I have anything to say about that. But there are different personalities, that is part of the job. I think once you become in like a position, leadership position, you've had that experience, and some people are just able to read people, right? I mean, you just need to have that, and a lot of it is just experience as you're, dealing with more people in the profession. And then some people just have, a little bit better people skills or can read personalities, but you figure out how everyone works, and then you make that work as a overall.
So what are you thinking over there? You're not necessarily thinking that direction, are you?
I am not. Well,
What are you
I
thinking?
I agree. But, talking from kind of an overall leadership and as the owner of a firm, I've always strived to have a reputation for doing really good work. And if someone is coming to our office for a proposal or to discuss a project, it's because it's based on our reputation as being really damn good landscape architects, not because I'm a woman or anything like that. And so that to me has always been really important. And so for many years, I did not pursue a WBE or a DBE. I didn't do it because I thought, I don't want someone to come to me because they went down a list and said, oh, Lage Design DBE. I don't want that. I want them to come to us because we do good work. Until I got a phone call from a large firm who wanted us. And they said, we want you because you have done really good work in this space, in this area, and we want you to be on our team because we are pursuing this project. And we said, okay. And then they came back and they said, are you a DBE? That was the second question. That wasn't the first question. And I said, no, I'm not. And I told them why. And they said, we totally respect that, but we would ask you to reconsider because not only do you do good work, but we could use the points to get the project. And then I did it. And, but, first and foremost, that to me, I think it's really important that it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, and it doesn't matter if you, in the office, are a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a personality, everybody has a way of working, and I fundamentally believe that we are all, whether we're on a design team or in our office, we are all trying to do the best we can. And I think from what's worked well for me is to always come from that perspective that I know you're trying to do a good job, I'm trying to do a good job, how do we do that together?
Do you want to go anywhere else on that, Anna?
I have one more thing to say.
Ooh, yes, go.
So I think, and maybe you were heading in this direction, I think part of being a good leader is coming to people on their terms and not expecting each individual with their personality to adjust to your personality. It's our responsibility to adjust to each of their individual personalities and make them the best person and architect or landscape architect or employee that they can be.
I heard you do that, Jennifer.
Really?
That's the rumor. I heard that from people who work with you. Like I didn't call other people who know you. Let's see.
For a background check before
that was almost exactly what this person said to me about you. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Did you have a role model who inspired you to seek a leadership role? So I know we didn't all have female PMs or architects, landscape architects who we worked under previously, but some of us did, right? And not all of us did. So maybe you had a mentor, maybe someone outside of whatever firm you were working for, who said, oh, you should do X, Y, and Z? Or did you just realize it in yourself that you should do these things? Like, who do you go for? What kind of person do you go for that kind of conversation? Don't just jump all at once.
I think that's an extremely
Exactly. Yeah, not all of us do, but yeah, some of us do.
And I don't think that, I never know how to answer that question, because I don't think that I have any one or two or three mentors or role models Because everybody that you interact with or work with or provide services for influences how you forward or how you implement your plan or change your plan. If they negatively or positively, right, you learn from each and every interaction that you have. That's what I try and gather versus one.
Not necessarily role model is what you're saying, which might work for whoever is listening, but it's not necessarily a role model, but it might be someone who influenced you one way or another, and you learned from them something, whatever the something is, and then you take that with you, and that becomes part of your arsenal of who you become.
Right.
Arsenal. That sounds so scary. Anything else to add to that, or I'm going to move on? No. Yeah? Nope. Okay. Oh, no, it was just too good, right? That was too good. Let's see. Do you mentor other women or even young men who are looking to gain leadership positions, or who are just, maybe they're not trying to gain leadership positions? Either one of those is open for conversation. And how do you do that? So yes might be the answer, but yeah, how does that happen? Yeah, well, so also, do they come to you? Do you see them struggling? Do you say something and then suddenly they're like coming to you all the time? I don't know. So like, how does that work? You know, and maybe I think what I'm after here is, I don't know what you were after in the question, but what I'm after in the question is, I think sometimes when we're growing up in the profession, we don't know what to ask or how to get to where we do or don't want to go. We just don't know where we're going sometimes. So, you know, and I guess I'm looking for, like, if you are mentoring, would you really call it mentoring, or we're just having these conversations, I'm like guiding someone along, but it really is mentoring? You know what I'm saying? Okay, she's okay with that. We're good. Okay.
I'll start with this one. I've been teaching at UNLV for over 20 years, and in that time, I've obviously met a lot of these students and have had, continue to have lasting relationships with them over time. And I've always made it clear that I'm available to them to help them, because I teach, one of the classes I teach is professional practice, to help them with resumes, to help them with interview skills. I've role-played with them when they've been up for jobs at firms that I compete with. And that's kind of cool because I kind of know something about that other firm, so I can help them, right? And through the years, I just make myself available, and even, you know, students and people that I haven't come across in years will call me out of the blue and say, hey, do you remember this or that? And I am just always happy to help and do whatever I can. I just had a conversation a few weeks ago with someone who was a student who is a colleague now and has their own kind of fledgling firm, and called me because they were heartbroken that someone that they hired as an intern, they're not here, hired as an intern, has now flown the coop, has left the nest. And they're like, I invested so much time and so much energy. And I'm like, yeah, I know that happens, but isn't that our job? You know, they come into us that entry level, and it's our job to train them and get them going, and they ultimately will leave. And it was like, you left a firm, I left a firm, that's what we do, and that's how we grow. So I think, to me, it's, instead of really using that word mentoring, to me it's more about relationships and being open and available to foster, you know, those relationships and help where you can, and especially for us as landscape architects, because as we were just saying, there aren't enough of us. So,
yeah, you know, all the ones we can get.
yeah, and we can't afford to lose any.
You guys want to tag on to that?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. It's all about the relationship, and I mean, that kind of goes back to being in the management positions anyways. Like, you obviously want all of your team to succeed. You want to bring them up. I mean, I had mentors, two specifically, like working through, like since I started in the profession, and I want to be able to be that for somebody else, you know? Like, that's the whole process. When you come out of school, you don't know enough to be an architect, right? You need someone to help you along the way, and that's, I mean, that's part of the fun, is to see someone else's career growing and like with yours, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
It is kind of fun to see their careers grow, even if they don't work in the same firm as you.
Yeah,
Sometimes
100%.
it's kind of more fun.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I still talk to people that used to work here, they went off, you know, you help them with resumes, you give them some tips. But yeah, they'll come back and say hi, go out to lunch, that kind of thing. But it's nice to do that, so.
And I think that's helpful, as you're growing in the profession as well, right? Because you're not really sure what it is that you're after sometimes. And sometimes you really know what you want to do. So, where am I going with that? And I think that, sometimes I wish I would have, found some architect and said, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I was always too ashamed to tell people I didn't know what I was doing. But you know that people in principal positions or higher PM positions, they all know you don't know anything. You know, it's unless you came out of you were an older student who went through a different process. That'd be the only way you would know a lot more than someone coming right out of school.
But you want everyone to be comfortable asking you, like, that's what I always push.
There you go.
Like, I'm like, ask me. I'm not in an office, like, I'm out with everybody, like, in the, you know, it's all open office when we're in there. But there's just being available, and, like, I'm not just saying it, like, I'm actually available, right? But yeah, following up with everybody, I check in on all the staff, man, woman, doesn't matter, all the time, 3 weeks, talking to every single person. A lot of work, but you get to know the people you're working with, you spend so much time with them, like, you know, you want to know what's going on, even outside of work, like, all about the relationship building. And
then you kind of have it's not really a mentoring program, it's a collaborating program you guys kind of do at City, right, between departments?
No. Reference what you're.
I was thinking more about.
With our training?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's just within, so it's just an informal program that I started really as a team building for my team, but now we've incorporated with certain subjects and topics, we've incorporated other, like some of our facilities maintenance guys or some of our IT folks, an HR person, but it's really more of a sharing.
I still think that's a good guide, you know what I mean? Because especially, I don't think you have really younger staff, but.
We have one intern.
Okay, you have one. Okay,
Yeah.
So let's say you had 5 younger staff. I think that, something like that could be really good for less experienced people to be involved in, because it's a lot to learn.
Well, it's actually, it's really good for all of us at all levels, because, so we do a different theme every year, and 2 years ago, we said, okay, once a month, each person is going to choose what you're good at or what you feel you're strong in, and you're going to teach the rest for 2 hours or whatever. You're going to teach the rest of us what you know and how we're benefiting from learning that. So we learned Blue Beam, which I personally was like, I don't want to technology, I'm done. And now I love it. I can't believe I resisted it for so long. We had someone teaching, so one person that's really knowledgeable with codes and ADA, and so he was teaching the rest of the staff who really aren't that knowledgeable, and we brought in some of our SM guys for that, because they do minor modifications without even realizing that was a thing, right? And then we're like, oh. So, and then last year, because of COVID, we went all virtual and we did soft skills. We included any of the SM guys from any of the trades. So there was a couple of courses where we had like 30 people virtually taking, how to have those difficult conversations, and it was really, really interesting to see things from the different perspectives of each of the trades, as well as supervisors, as well as us. And then this year, it's just my team, and we're back in person, and we're doing the 7 habits of successful. We just pick, one of them each month, and then we try and act on it during the month, and we come back the next month.
I think that's a really positive thing for everyone. I'm not, I wouldn't call that, again, and I see why you didn't want to, like, jump in with that for mentoring, but that still is, like, it's kind of a wraparound, right? For that, it's kind of a mentoring thing, but it's everyone mentoring each other, growing together, which I think is also important. But since I took you that direction, is there something else you want to say about mentoring? That was good. Okay, you're good for that. Because I think that's a really important thing. And when people ask me, younger people ask me about the profession generally or whatever, I always just say, grab as much information about a bunch of different things as you can. I think it's really important for us growing up in the profession to have a well-rounded understanding of things. Because architects, it's like we know a little bit about a ton of things, and that's why we have consultants who are very smart and know about landscape or, mechanical, because I don't necessarily want to go do calculations for air. Okay, so I think that's all awesome. For my next, what kind of things do you do to inspire your teams? What are your strategies? Like, what I asked you in an email is, I wouldn't ask my team to do anything I wouldn't do. So if I already would do it, then I'm going to ask you to do it too, because I know I'll just jump in and do whatever. So even if it's something small, like, hey, can you take out the trash? Because, yes, in our firm, I take out the trash. So how do you inspire your team? Do you do, like, retreats? Apparently we do the training and guidance, training kind of things over at the City of Henderson. Like, what about mental health time off and things like that? What do you do for yourself? How do you deal with that stuff?
I think it's about the little things sometimes. So as a team, we'll celebrate successes, go out to lunch periodically because somebody submitted for an award and didn't get it, but put so much effort into it. Or we did the biggest year with the most projects we've ever had, and all of them were on time. Celebrate those together, and also try and support each other in the fails, right? And it's not the fails, it's the nerve-wracking challenges that you don't think you're up to, but you're there because you can do it. That support and spirit.
Raw team spirit. Sorry, couldn't help it. So what kinds of things do you guys do at your firm for that?
I mean, we do similar things.
Or outside your firm? Because you guys do other things outside of your firms as well.
I mean, we do similar things to celebrate successes or, to your point. It's been a little bit harder with COVID in a larger office. So we've had to get creative a little bit. It's harder to acknowledge some of those successes because they're happening in one room, right, with one person. We're trying to be better about that. I have a fairly large team on one project. We hit a deadline and everyone's working crazy hours. You're not seeing them in the office, but you know that they're at home and, like, by themselves working all these crazy hours, right? We couldn't go out because it's just, again, what we're doing right now with that many people. So I wrote them each like a handwritten thank you, just to show, like, we do see you, It's like that, it's just acknowledgement, really, of those things. But it's gotten a little different than it normally would, like the lunches and out to the bar and barbecues and that kind of thing that we did before COVID time. Yeah. So, but we're still trying to figure that out, right? How that works even a year and a half in.
Right, especially the longer we stay in this.
Yeah, because you don't want people to feel like they're alone, like they're not, right? And we talk to each other every day, but when you're working late and you're not in that office environment like you normally would have been before, it's
hard to check in, check up on people.
Exactly, and you don't want people to feel like they're not being noticed, because they are, but you you can't just casually tell them, because they're not, like, you know, you can't see them every second of every day, so, yeah. Interesting.
Are you having, so also with COVID, are you having separate conversations with your team members or your staff in general to check in on them?
Yeah, all the time, yeah. We have a variety of, you know, email, Slack, actual phone calls, text messages, it's like all the ways to communicate, which can also be overwhelming, but
Yeah.
like which thing do you check? But yeah.
That's really hard. I mean, it's gotten harder. I think you're right, it was easier before.
It was easier before.
I was just sitting there looking at you going, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, you can see it, and a
Yeah.
lot of times, like, people aren't on camera as much anymore, which I get. I'm one of them. Like, I'm just tired. I'm
Right.
just tired of it. But yeah, you want to make sure they're not just saying, yeah, I'm fine, you know.
Right, oh, I can't have my camera on because I have a bad connection, which could be
Yeah.
true, but on the other hand, you know, you worry that maybe that it's more than that.
Yeah, so I think you actually have to reach out more than you know, to keep that connection.
Anything to add on that?
Sure, I think, I mean, for us, we're all back in the office now. And, it goes back again to relationships and, you know, motivating people. And for us, I think, we generally all kind of like each other, which is good. And, but we have kind of set the culture up and to take the time to get to know each other and spend time personally away from the office. And there are 4 people in our office who have lunch together every day in our conference room. And my office is right next to that, and sometimes the laughter is so loud that I have been on a call and I've had to go over and say, hey, I'm on a call, keep it down. And, but just, you know, and understanding what's going on in our personal lives, you know, so-and-so is moving, you know, so-and-so's father is ill, so, you know, all of those different things, and being able to give them that time and that support and know that we care and that we understand, I think has really kind of fostered a nice foundation for us as an office family.
So really, support, I would say, is your general theme for how you inspire the firm, or inspire your teams, right? And that's the biggest part of, like, keeping your team together, the wellness of your team, or teams. Anything else? Suddenly you're so shy. Okay.
I'm just listening to everybody else.
Okay.
Girls.
Do you think you have a style of leadership or a way of doing things that is maybe different from your male colleagues or maybe even your female colleagues? Or, and by colleagues, I don't necessarily mean in your own firm, but maybe in other departments or in other, like,
Same level, different
different
areas.
place, right?
Yeah.
But also I'm thinking about, because it's a little bit different for Jenny, because her husband's also an architect, but in a different firm.
That is a unique situation we have.
So I guess I'm kind of looking for, you know, do you talk about the differences, like, do you realize that the way you interact with your teams is different from how other people interact with their teams maybe, and like the good, bad, the ugly, you know, do you have a style? Would you call it really a style?
I think style is much more common. Don't tell him I said that though.
Like, this isn't being recorded. He's like,
Yeah, I am calmer than him. There's a yin and a yang there. But I don't know if I have a specific style. I mean, yeah, I don't get super worked up. Try not to get super worked up. I mean, honestly, that doesn't really help anybody. It just stresses everybody out. And I don't really want that. So, be okay. But I don't know if I have a like style I can name.
so you're kind of looking for the middle ground and a way to bring everybody on board. I'm not
Yeah.
sure it's a style, but it's a way, maybe. style? I
Yeah,
don't really.
I feel like most managers would be trying to do that, but everyone's gonna have a little bit different stuff, different personality, right?
You would either the carrot or the stick.
Oh, well, there you go.
Like the whole, keep calm and design.
Never the stick.
Huh? Do you with the stick?
Never the stick.
It's always the stick, you just don't see it.
I think it goes back to that whole thing about changing your style to meet the needs of your staff or whoever you're working with. And so it's more of a flexibility than a style.
You know, you're bringing that up again, and now I'm thinking, is that stressful sometimes to change your style to meet other?
It takes a whole lot of energy.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, there's nothing left at the end of the day.
No.
Your family just gets what's left, which is
Please understand, Mom's tired all day.
You know, that is so true because my natural style tends to be no nonsense, head on, let's just figure this out and take care of that. And some people find that difficult. And I understand that. But at the same time, you know, I'm about let's just get this done, right? And so I consider like myself a work in progress because, you know, different people take things different ways. And so learning how they're going to take that and then readjusting my directness or no nonsense kind of an attitude in such a way that they're not going to say like, oh shit, she's upset now. And I'm probably not upset, but, you know, sometimes that kind of directness kind of is, and
I appreciate your
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you do?
Well, sometimes it can sound angry, right? And it's not that it's angry, it's just that I got something to tell you, and I don't have time really to deal with it, so I got to tell you this and I got to go. And sometimes you don't know you did it.
and sometimes I don't know I did it, exactly. And my husband and I work together, and our styles are very different. And he is always, like, he will let somebody know that he is angry and upset and not happy with what just happened or what the work was or whatever, and they will be laughing. He has this way about him that he can do that. And just, you know, and it's like, I just heard that whole conversation, and I know you, and I know that you're upset and you're not happy, but somehow you are all laughing. How do you do that? And so it's, everybody has a different style in a different way, and
I try that, it does not work for me.
yeah, it doesn't
It's
work
not
for me
natural.
either. Yeah, it's not natural at all.
I appreciate that, though.
So, yeah, it's just different.
Still get what you need to get done. Man, that is a nice little gift right there.
That is a gift. That is a gift that makes me crazy sometimes.
Can you speak a little louder for the mic?
As you guys move into these prioritization and becoming your own owner, did you guys take any leadership programs to implement creative mindset? And kind of in that path right now, where I'm starting with and I'm like, how am I gonna hire it? How am I gonna attract people? So if you do programs and how
That's a great question. We talk about it all the time at work because you get to where you are, wherever that is, because you're good at what you were, right? And nobody's teaching you how to handle now what you're supposed to be good at. And so you have this tendency to keep thinking back to what you were good at, which was design or documentation or whatever, and then your people get ignored. And so, no, I haven't taken any of those classes, but,
it's really tough that you'll have adapted to your new roles and are able to manage teams and growing into how you're gonna manage this person. And I'm hearing all these things about how I hire somebody from being like, I'm gonna adapt to this person and this culture.
I think it's being cognizant of it and reading a lot.
I think sometimes you do need to take those classes, not always. And some people do and some don't.
And some provide, right, they're giving higher titles because it's seminar or as an owner of his own company, so he's active. Learning to guide others.
So I'm going to take that back, actually. I have taken some courses. They weren't really classes, but, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was EduCode. They always have a week, so EduCode comes once a year typically, and they have different tracks. One is code-related, one of their tracks is leadership-related, and it's a whole week of this type of stuff. It was really, really good, actually.
At EduCode?
EduCode. It's the last place you would expect it, and it was amazing.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just go to sit in for updates on the code.
Right? That's how I started, but this was way better than learning about the new ADA plumbing count requirements. It was really interesting.
So shoot, if there's one this year, in 2022, maybe I should look at that.
It was.
I don't think I've taken one class or course on any of it.
Learning and.
But it's not that you're not absorbing things as you go, right? I mean, there's things within your own company, but then like even going to like these events, like the AIA events, you see how other people operate, how other people are talking to each other, from all the different firms and all that leadership, and you're just absorbing it and not 100% on the periphery, but kind of immerse yourself in those kind of events, has kind of see how people work. What is it?
There's also personality kind of tests that you can take, and as a group, you can take a personality test together to see how you perceive information, or how the other person's viewing it, or how it comes across. So then, just being cognizant of that, then you can adjust to each other if you're in a team together. I've done that, and that was really helpful.
We do that with every new employee that we get. They say we all have we do the disc through the city, but, and not every department does it. I think I'm complaining. But, every time we have a new employee, we have them take that disc, and then we sit down as a group with someone from HR to moderate that conversation. And so we're all introduced with our disc personalities, and they're introduced with their disc personalities. And it's been very, very helpful and led to a lot of really great.
That's interesting. Yeah, I worked for a really large firm years ago, and we did a personality test for the local office. And I didn't see any benefit to it at all. But I got to tell you that over the years, every now and then I go back to look at that list of what I supposedly am. And sometimes I'm like, yep, still am that. I'm no longer this, but I am that. And, yeah, so it's interesting how you grow, because it's been many years. Yeah, it's been many years since I worked for that firm. And I think that the personality test is fascinating.
I'm a strong believer in it, and when we started it, a couple of my staff were very skeptical and kind of irritated with me that I was making them do it. And now they're the first ones. They're the first ones to start that conversation.
You get to know yourself too, like, oh, this is why I'm this way, you know?
So the first time that we did it, the HR person that was helping us with it gave us famous people that were also of that style, and I was Darth Vader.
Nice.
Oh my God.
That's great.
We do that in our office as well, and we have one person who, their report came back and they're like, this is so not me. And the rest of us were like, it is so you. And,
You do personality tests too.
yes, yeah, the disc, we do.
We
as
just
well.
did it for the first time, we had like a leadership retreat, because we have offices in Reno and LA too, so everyone came in and we did that, and I was the one that was like super skeptical. I was like, I don't know about this. But it was actually pretty accurate, and it was fun to see what everyone else is, because you learn how they take, like, to your point, right, you're very direct, like, you kind of learn how those people take that then, based on that personality
You
test.
learn,
But,
okay, but not
Yeah.
to take it personal, right?
yeah, they're just understanding it different than you would, which is actually a good thing.
Right? So
But,
it's a different point of view, right?
yeah, different point of view is a good thing. But yeah, those are.
But then you can adapt your, the way you run your team then, based on that. And that's what we got out of personality tests right there. Yeah. Thanks for
but
those.
back to your question, as architects, I think landscape architects, all of us in our discipline, we are taught to be designers. We're not really taught to be business
Cecilia?
people.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Carlos just texted me, apparently the question wasn't, wasn't heard well. I'm going to repeat both of them. There was a question and then there was kind of a comment on that. So Monica Rivera asked, as we were coming into higher positions or positions of leadership, she wanted to know if any of our panelists took leadership classes or went through leadership programs. And so that's how we got to where we are. And then Cindy commented on whether or not these ladies have participated in personality tests or with their in their firms and companies. So that's where we were going with this conversation. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Continue,
So
please.
we're not really trained or educated as business people, and so when I first started out and it was just me, it was pretty easy. And as we grew, and I found myself sitting there struggling to get a quarterly tax return in on time, and kind of had that conversation with myself almost of, what am I good at and what am I not so good at? And when the time comes that I am able to bring someone else on who is good at this stuff, or I can hire somebody to do that, then hire people to help you who are good at other things so you can do what you're good at. And so it's, now we have an office manager, and we have a payroll company. We do all of those things so that we can be landscape architects for the most part, right? And for professional development, starting at the city of Henderson, when I was there anyway, in planning, we were encouraged to take as many classes on as many things as we could, go to as many seminars as we could, and we did that. And I found such benefit and growth in that we encourage our staff to do that. If there's a class or a seminar or something that will help them do their job better or help them just grow, we will support them in that. Very valuable. And those are things that maybe they can learn and bring back to us that maybe they're not, obviously, aren't learning in the office.
Yeah, some of those things you can't learn in the office.
Right.
So I agree with that. So do you think, what might be, so you kind of touched on that a little bit about, it's not really a barrier, but maybe knowing what your where your strong points are not, where you're weak, and then how do you overcome that? I'm going to go into the idea of what personal or professional barriers do you feel might be hindering you or other women from reaching the highest levels of leadership in the design and construction world? Because there still aren't a lot of us, right, that are heads of firms or in leadership positions for design or construction. I don't know, construction is a lot harder to find than design, the design side, right? So are there things that are holding us back? Are we our own worst enemies? Or do you think that we're not really in that position of our own worst enemies anymore, that maybe we're changing over time?
It's definitely been changing over time. When I started, the biggest issue to me was credibility. A man walks on the job site and I walk on the job site, and it automatically they know more, right? It's just that, and I don't think that's the case so much anymore. I think it's been getting better. But that was a struggle at the beginning. I think you don't expect a woman to be an architect. Now I don't know if that. I think that's better. I think that the next generation is better. I'm seeing more 50-50, even on construction sites. There are a lot more women in the construction site where there used to be zero. So that's huge. Probably my first 5-7 years, I don't think I found one woman in the construction trailer but me. And now you go and they're actually, they're contractors too. Look at that. So I think that is definitely getting a lot better.
Did somebody else come in, or we lost one? Are we losing time? I think we're okay. Just a weird sound. Is there a chat? Oh, no, that's from Carlos. When he put in the antitrust statement. I think when we were having these conversations a week or two ago, it was more along the lines of not along the lines, but some of the things we got into is, it's not really fair to say barrier, but sometimes we step out of, architecture for a while, or sometimes we step out of architecture altogether, right? Maybe that has to do with family or, change in location, horrific, state of design and construction, when we had the big downfall in 2008, 9, 10. Like maybe some of those things, or you really think that we're changing on that front as well?
I think it's absolutely changing but I think it's not just changing for us as women, but I think it's changing for the men as well. And with the men, the changes with the men, I think is one of the ways we're kind of starting to find that equilibrium, right? Where, you know, the men are also taking paternity leave, right? It's not just on the woman to take the kid to the orthodontist, you know. People are asking for time to go do that with their children, right? So, you know, it's kind of like it's I think not just happening in the office, I think culturally, I think it's becoming more 50-50 with things like parenting, and that then I think kind of makes its way into our office culture as well.
So maybe these things used to be barriers for women, and now we're all changing so much that culturally it's a little bit different, and so we're going to have different barriers in the future that might be more like technology and being socially connected. Maybe that's going to be our problem in the future. That's what we're going to talk about in 10 years.
So we're there yet, though, because even during COVID, there's a lot of studies out there on the number of people that left the field to take care of the kids during COVID, and it's still high percentage of women in the early taking on that role. A little bit work left.
I mean, COVID is an unusual situation, but I do think it's getting better, I agree, but because I think it's still the women who are taking on more of that role and responsibility, but I think it's the businesses and leaders who are allowing some freedom and flexibility to arrange for that. So if you have to take a couple of hours for a doctor appointment or a school function to go do that, there's more flexibility, and you're not looked at as, well, you might as well just go be a mom then. Here. Or vice versa.
Which is what
it used to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, in our offices, you can use PTO to go to the vet with your dog. Because that's important to all of us in the office, our pets. And
especially those of us who don't have kids. Or people kids. There we go. Okay, so outside of AIA, what organizations do you participate with who form that help you form who you are?
Really?
Yeah, before you had Lage, now that you have Lage.
I think, if you guys don't mind, we were talking about, you know, the whole thing with women and men in the workplace and stuff. My son and I are, this is our 4th year in the Young Men's Service League, which is a philanthropic organization that works with a lot of charities, and it's a way for mothers and their teenage sons to bond and find things to do together and at the same time give back and benefit. And I think that has been really an extraordinary experience for Ben and me these last 4 years, and having to work together, and I see him differently, he sees me differently, and we're helping others, and because it's not just everything we volunteer for is interactive. We are doing something not just together, but with another group, and of people we're helping or organizations we're helping, and so I think for our young men coming up to have that kind of experience with their mothers, I think will hopefully benefit them as adult men in their careers and in their relationships with women in any way.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I didn't even know that existed.
It's the Young Men's Service League, YMSL.
We did that with my son. It didn't help, but we volunteer, and
Yeah.
it's good. It gives them something to, not speaking of themselves, but in the community as a whole,
Yeah.
you know.
So when you guys speak on that side of the table, if you would project a little bit more, because it's really hard for people who are watching to hear us. I'm really close, and I am doing my best to project. What about you ladies?
I've actually gone the other direction and made a conscious decision not to be involved with a whole lot of organizations and volunteer work because I spend so many hours at work and I still have young kids. So my volunteer work is schlepping them to and from sports and other activities. But that's been a conscious choice.
Yep, I've also taken a step back this year. AC zone. My voice goes away no matter what. I've taken a conscious choice to step back this year. I was involved with the AIA pretty heavily for 5 years. But yeah, this year it's just a lot of work and new positions, and I just decided to too much architecture one time. So I don't have kids, but spend my time doing other things.
Yeah, so you're doing things outside of AIA. I mean, you're doing stuff kind of with AIA, but you're still doing things not necessarily.
I'm not volunteering, like I'm not specifically involved in any other organizations at the very moment. There's like occasional volunteer efforts at, different places, but I'm not like, I don't have like a program that I'm on.
Okay, so then what are you doing to center yourself? How are you making yourself happy? I'm not saying, okay, just to be clear with the audience, I'm not saying that AIA or volunteering is the way to make yourself happy. I'm just really kind of moving on to the next question because Jenny kind of pushed me with something she said, and I'm like, oh yeah, we should go into the whole happiness thing. Like, what are you doing that makes you happy?
Outside of work?
Yeah. Like, because that's part of how you form yourself and how you lead, right? Because otherwise, you're just no good to anybody.
Yeah, we travel a lot. COVID's been hard, but we'll just go out camping, hiking, somewhere driving distance, we do that quite often. Get out away from the screen. No screen.
No screens, no connection?
No screen, no Wi-Fi.
Phone didn't work?
Yeah, we just need a break. It's been slightly overwhelming.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that COVID, that was a silver lining for me out of COVID, though, is you're go, 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 and then the whole world shuts down and you're still working, but if there's no more other outside activities, and it was just so nice to, at some point, be done.
And not have something to do every minute.
Yeah, so that's why I made a conscious decision, and that's made me happy.
Slow it down.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not gonna last forever, I can already tell that.
Oh, no, it's already
Picking
up, but
I like that conscious decision to slow down. I did that for a while, and now I'm just like...
it doesn't last forever, yeah, you can see it coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, my happy place. I am addicted to fly fishing, although I don't get to do it often enough. And my Zen moments are with, I'm a beekeeper, so my Zen moments are with the beehive, where I'm there every day, and I talk to the girls, and my neighbor thinks there's this crazy woman talking to herself about all sorts of stuff, and I'm actually talking to the bees.
That's super cool, because so many people are afraid of bees, but, I mean, you're dressed for it.
No.
Oh.
No, I only put the gear on when I completely open up the whole thing. Otherwise, if I'm just checking, if I'm taking the lid off, I will go in whatever.
But they're pretty comfortable with you.
They are pretty comfortable with me. I've only had one bad incident. I came in the house and I said, Tiffany, I think I just got stung. And he said, there's a bee in your hair. Get out. And I had 4 stings that day. So.
Ouch.
Yeah. But other than that, no, they pick up on your pheromones and stuff. stuff, and if you're afraid or stressed, they know.
That was the next thing I was gonna ask you was, like, you go in with a different attitude when you see the bees, when you're going to see the bees.
Yeah. Even if I'm gonna tell them that, you know, I had a lousy day or something like that, it's very zen, it's very calm, and they buzz around, and I highly recommend beehives.
So were you all happy before you took your current role? I asked you that in an email. I mean, you found your happy place before, and then you have the role you have now. And there are things about the role you have now that make you happy, and other things, well, you just can't help that make you unhappy, but generally, you're all happy. Good decisions for where you are. What else you got?
I emailed you my questions, lady.
I know.
Why are you putting me on the spot all the time?
Because what if some of this inspired you to ask other things? Because, you know, Monica and Cindy both had some stuff to put in there.
I have a question before we
Oh,
go.
see, there we go. Monica.
Sorry.
Good, speak up.
Talking about organizations, right? You stuff. Do you recommend it? Let's talk a little bit more. If you,
I'm going to repeat that because it's still not very loud, but you're asking if they would recommend joining certain organizations to connect with other
relationship.
people,
As a
relationships,
business owner.
as a business owner. Okay.
I know that you, that's something that you do, for example. Being part of an organization.
Sure, I think it's really important to interact with, you know, as a landscape architect, I mean, interact with ASLA. Our organization, I think, is really important, because you start to meet not just other landscape architects, but you start to meet sales reps and people like that who also are not only dealing with us, but they're dealing with the architects and engineers, and so you start to kind of, you have to consciously decide to start to move in those circles. Come to AIA events, you know, be present, make yourself available, is really important. And there are other organizations as well, you know, to do that with, and yeah, get out there, meet people. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know, you know, who that might lead you to. Yeah, don't be shy. I mean, there's, and I'm not saying I'm very good at it because I don't think I am, but there's an art to working a room. And my husband is very good at that. And, you know, don't be afraid to come into a room with a handful of business cards. I guess, I don't know if we're still doing those. But, you know,
I do, yes. You need to, especially COVID times right now. It's like really everybody's out. Separated and everybody's shifted. I feel like everybody's shifted places, and so now the people you knew where they were, now they're no longer there, or they quit, or passed away, unfortunately. It's just
Hard to find people. Yeah.
so when young in my career, Jack Zunino, incredible landscape architect, Anna worked for him as well. He always said that everyone in the office is responsible for marketing. And not only that, we are always marketing. Be ready to market. And he told me one time that I was going to an AIA thing or whatever, and he says, you have to promise me today you're going to talk to 10 people you've never met before, and you're going to come back tomorrow with their 10 business cards to prove to me that you did it.
Oh, very extreme.
Yeah.
But that's reasonable, but he said 10, I think I didn't come back with 10 cards, but I came back with whatever I came with, and I talked to him, and he never said, you know, you needed to have 10. But, you know, the point was you have to get out there, and you have to do that, and you have to set a goal, right? I'm going to go to this thing, and I'm going to talk to so many people I've never talked to before, and it's scary. It's scary, and I know some people say, oh, you just get better at it. I'm still terrified.
Yeah,
So
me too.
Even in the
yeah.
I find it to connect, business cards
Yep.
have a, like, a fun conversation rather than just trying to move on, trying to conquer a group. Like, I'd rather meet three people and the people, but it's, who's gonna say things?
But it's difficult to figure out who will actually give you the time of day too, right?
But also make it genuine, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're an asset to you as a person. Meeting the person for the person, meeting somebody, not only. Because how am I gonna like have someone be like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Make sure that if I go, making real connections, learning, whatever they do.
I think you're looking at it the wrong way. I think you're kind of in the right process, I think, the right thought, that you are just gonna meet people. No, I feel like if you're gonna meet people, but those people can also help you to lead you to some place. So it's not necessarily, oh, I may see you later, like,
No,
so.
that's exactly what I said, being genuine about the people that you
Yes.
only walk away, you know. That's the difference in having a business card.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be the first thing you do, I think is what you're after. What you're saying is, really what we need to do is that we have that conversation first, and then maybe as you're parting ways, that's when the card comes out. So if you're trying to figure out like where those cards go, then that's what I would say.
And I think what she's saying,
I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to, is that
Right.
10 is too many. You can't make those
No, you
genuine
cannot.
connections in an hour meeting
No.
if you're required to get 10 business cards. But that was in the day of the elevator speech, which died, thank God. So,
Right.
you know, there was a different mentality back then with, but I like what you're saying with,
Yeah.
it's more important to make some genuine connections during those interactions rather than just going to meet 10 people because that's your quota for the day or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that some, I have had this conversation with some firm owners, not necessarily architects, and they say, oh, so, you know, for this week, so my quota for this week is I have to call 3 architecture firms and, like, I forgot what else this one person was telling me, like, some other groups of people, and that's how I grow my business. And I'm like, oh my God, that just sounds so stressful to think about, like, how I actually have to have this goal of 3 or 5 people that I have to call every week to grow my firm. Because I think that it's about the relationship, right? So, there you go again. But I think that was a good thing that Jack pushed you for the 10, because he probably knew you weren't gonna come back with 10.
It wasn't about the 10.
It was about
a number, right?
Make her get out there and
Yeah.
do something, because the
Yeah,
thing I wrote
exactly.
down, you said marketing, and I think we're gonna have to cover marketing again next year, is, like, I don't think we are, so you said something earlier about we're not trained to run a business when we're in school, because we're not. And then we're also not trained to do marketing. Oh, let me do these pretty pictures, let me show you what this looks like, hello, presentation, I can present my own stuff, and it's not about how you make the relationships or anything else, which I think is really hard. And if, you know, as women or also as men in leadership positions, I think, you know, part of that is for us to figure out, like, how to train our staff or people in general, like, how we all make those relationships, which we kind of call marketing in general. I really hate that word, but, yeah. So, and how do you make those relationships, and how do you make, and then how does that come back? And, you know, it doesn't necessarily come back to the firm right away, but, you know, sometime in the future, maybe. So it's hard if you're just getting those 3 people, like, it doesn't always mean you get anything right away, right? But you still gotta make those connections. Is, I guess, what you were after?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also, her goal was her job and her reputation was proper, her job. Wanted to make sure that her quality of work was presented, and that her goal.
So that's knowing people first, right? Because you had to have the relationship with people for them to know that you had good work.
Right, right.
Nobody knows
Yeah.
you. Nobody knows what you're capable of. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it takes a long time. I'm old. I've been doing this for a very long time. And, it takes a lot of work. And, you know, when I left Jack's office and I started getting phone calls from work, those phone calls were coming from people that I had been working with when I was at Jack. And they liked working with me. And they had a lot, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on, and they, you know, so they were calling me, and then it was on me to do a good job and maintain those relationships moving forward and build on that.
And that's the best marketing.
Great experience with you.
Right.
And in one of our meetings, did we have that discussion about how marketing it should be a different word? Was that a relationship word?
We did talk about that early on this year.
It was
Just touched on it though, like we could probably go into more depth.
I think we're gonna have to do that. So, because I think because it's, even though we use the word marketing, it really is the relationship thing. What's that?
Might have been networking that we were talking about.
Yeah, maybe so. Anything else? Because we are, winding down, down. We're almost done. We're gonna shut down in 3 minutes. I am so pleased that you two had some input and questions.
I have one last question.
Yay, one more
Is there
question.
anything that you would change about your current leadership style? Any boo-boos that you typically do that you catch yourself, but maybe you could continue to do it, that other people could potentially learn from?
Every day. I am a work in progress. No, seriously. Every day I think I should have said something differently. I could have said it better. I should have picked up the phone instead of sending an email to have that personal touch every day. And, you know, just try to do better every day. And, you know, we're all human, right? We're all imperfect, and we're all hopefully always striving to grow and do better. And so the hardest part about that for me, Anna, is to not be too hard on myself, right? Because every day I'm going to screw up. And and to just take it and learn from it and move on and hopefully not make that same mistake again. But look forward to new mistakes.
Look forward to the new mistakes. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, what Cecilia said. That's pretty accurate. You always think back on what you said, and you're like, oh, I could have done that a little bit different, or yeah, every day. Not that it was like a train wreck every day, but you know, little things. You're always self-adjusting, like every single day. Yeah.
I'm also listening.
Going back to that piece of leadership, I feel like it's our responsibility, if we're older and we have more experience, to teach those, you know, interns that don't know, or it's our responsibility, I think.
Well, thank you. We're gonna close now. I gotta figure out how to turn that off. Kelly?
Yeah.
We're about done. I'm gonna say, goodbye, and then we're ready to go. Thank you, Jennifer, Jenny, Cecilia. Appreciate y'all, participating in this panel discussion. Look forward to maybe some comments on the YouTube. Suddenly forgot what it was, going to say webpage, that's not right. Channel, thank you. The YouTube channel, see if there's anything that we need to respond to. I think that's fascinating. And hope to see you ladies, next year, or even next month, to participate in how we're going to form our, panels for next year. Like, what do we talk about next year? Because apparently we're talking about marketing or relationships or how that all works together. But other things that we need to discuss, because it's, like how we work better, work with each other. So thank you so much for coming over and, sharing.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Hi.